I'm Sam Mitchell, and these are my stories. Hi folks, on your day today, let me first welcome you to Autism Rocks and Rolls. Now, before we get a message, I'm not our psychiatrist. If you're not diagnosed with autism, please see a physician. I only speak based on my experiences. I also do not own the right to the intro natural that I found on easeconv.com. I also should mention I do sell t-shirts and hats for $20. Be sure to get yours today. But there is a podcast I do need to mention too, and that is the All Abilities No Filter podcast. But instead of me telling that, I think my good friend Jake is going to tell us about it right now. Jake, take her away.
What happens when passionate educators, therapists, and parents come together with the mics on? You get All Abilities No Filter, a podcast that goes beyond buzzwords and gets into the heart of what it means to advocate for people with disabilities. Real talk, real stories, real impact. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts and join a community that believes in doing it together and doing it better. All Abilities No Filter is brought to you by Springbrook Autism Behavioral Health.
All right, everybody, be sure to check out their podcast before you listen to this one. I do have a mystery review with all of you as well. The mission of Autism Rocks and Rolls is to take the stigma off of autism and other conditions that may or disabilities. People on the spectrum are not broken and do not need to be fixed. Those who have conditions always want to be pitied. There's nothing to be sorry about. I also do have a paid for the following. I have to recommend visiting Bloomington's Moose Lodge. The club may have been founded by Dr. Hayden Wilson, who opened the first moose home in the Louisville, Kentucky area in 1888. When the moose first opened, its primary goal was to give guys a place to congregate, mingle, and enjoy themselves. At our neighboring lodges, you can engage in a range of activities by yourself or with others. The Moose provides a variety of events such as musical performances, sporting events, holiday gatherings, and gourmet meals. Now have a look for yourself. I also do have some people I'd like to thank. Like always, I have to thank my previous guest, Jake Egger, and C331 Back to Baseline with Jake Egger for more information, for being such a helpful human being. Thank you, Jake, for coming on. Hope things are going well for you and Springbrook Autism Behavioral Health. My board member, Jake, made to the A.O. Kiwani's Got Talent show. While we were not able to attend, we heard it couldn't have gone better. A good job goes to Mr. May and AR friend Vanessa McCleary. Also, we have another Autism Digest interview to talk about. My friend Kay McElwin of C305, Movie Maps with Kay McElwin for more information, interviewed another friend of AR, Sarah Bradford of C315, Out of the Box Analyzing with S.J. Childs, or Sarah Bradford for more information. The interview is one I recommend checking out. My mother at C105, Meet My Mother for more information, did a constellation call to help a mother guide her 11-year-old daughter. I know it's hard, but you're doing a good job, Mama. Also, I went back to Vincent's PBS and participated in Allison Bowers and C324, going live with Allison Bowers for more information, People in Your Neighborhood Project. It was so awesome to do this for the children in Vincent's, Indiana, and to see my college family. Plus, I did 2 brand new speed networking events. The first was an alignable event called Magnetize and Monetize Mondays, that was hosted by Expanding Your Digital Aura with Human Designs. The other room was a clubhouse room titled Sage Business Owner's Room. I met some new people at both. And since the last episode, I have appeared on some podcasts. They were the Genius Talk podcast with Atul Raj, the Live Better Daily podcast with Ankit Shukla, the Phoenix Mind podcast with Lisa Manzo, and the Bridging Gaps Connection podcast featured Fridays with Darla Williams. What awesome podcasts, everyone. Now, before we begin our episode, I do have to be the bearer of bad news. It is with the utmost sadness that I have to announce my grandfather, Big Papa Joe, and C122, Beepig Joe for more information, is no longer with us. He was one of my best friends. To honor his work and memory, I first would encourage you to wear one of his Autism Rocks and Rolls t-shirts, but for now, we will have a WWE 10-bell salute. So if you could, bell ringer, please ring the bell for whom they may toll. All right, thank you all for your participation. To my grandfather, it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta do this interview. My bad. Anyway, speaking of WWE, I have former professional wrestler Marc Copani, also known as Muhammad Hassan, with me as my guest today. In 2004, Mr. Copani debuted one of the most controversial characters in WWE history. Muhammad Hassan is an Arabic American who would berate America due to stereotypes made by the 9/11 attacks while also praying to Allah. While his character was controversial, it did lead to Copani work with stars like Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker. He was on my show because after being released in 2005, he went into teaching, became an assistant principal, and currently an HR employee at Fulton School District in New York, which I find inspiring. Please help me welcome Marc Copani, aka Muhammad Hassan, to Autism Rocks and Rolls. Mr. Copani, how are we doing, my friend?
I am good, Sam. How are you today?
I am all right, brother. So my first question to you is, what does being known as one of those controversial characters in WWE and an educator mean to you?
Right now, I am the Director of Human Resources in the Fulton City School District in Central New York. So it is the complete polar opposites of being the most controversial character in the WWE and now being the man who tries to stop controversy in my school district. I feel like I've had a pretty diverse life and I've got to do a lot of things, and I'm very blessed and fortunate. I've had the opportunity to do the things that I have, and I don't forget that. I'm grateful for that every single day.
And I know it took you a long time to do that with WWE because after your fall, you held a grudge for 10 years, if I remember correctly.
Not necessarily a grudge. I've never blamed anybody but myself. I mean, I took responsibility for playing that character. I made those decisions. A lot of things I said, I came up with on my own. I think what you're thinking is I was more heartbroken and even depressed. Everything just kind of ended so swiftly. For a few years after, I was lost until I found education. And then for many years after that, I was just too busy to worry about wrestling. But as of recently, I did start getting back into wrestling. I'm doing more appearances. It's been fun to live in both worlds, Sam. I get to be an HR director during the week. And then like this weekend, I'm traveling to Iowa. It is the Wrestling Revolver, Saturday, 7 p.m. in Kiowa.
Be sure to check this guy out in Iowa because I'm going to tell you right now, he's a pretty cool guy. I did hear you on Dark Side of the Ring, and from what I heard, at first you were a bit iffy on doing it, but the producers then persuaded you. What did the producers say to finally say, all right, let's go do it?
I did a interview with Chris Van Vliet, who does amazing interviews at WrestleCon in Philadelphia.
I met him.
He's really cool. And he had brought out the idea of Muhammad Hassan being a Dark Side of the Ring story. And I said, absolutely not, because I don't know if you've ever watched Dark Side of the Ring. I've seen them all. They usually don't end well for the subject of the show. But lo and behold, a few months later, one of the producers reached out to me and told me they were interested and started talking and kind of doing a preliminary interview. And he assured me that they didn't want to do anything negative, that they actually wanted to do a positive episode just because they had heard about my new career and the positivity that I spread throughout my school district and with my students. And it gave me the guarantee and allowed me to work with them about the show and what the show was going to be like. I'm really proud that I did it. It turned out great. They did a really nice job of tying in a lot of different things that were happening at the time into my story. Great crew, producers, everybody involved, and they took care of me. It's one of the highlights of my life at this point. It's really cool to see everything put into one hour-long TV show like that.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
Thank you.
You can't go wrong with that because it did have a unique outcome because you didn't face any of the other typical wrestling habits like overdosing.
My life has not been easy and I've had my ups and downs, but ultimately what I think Dark Side really showed is that I found a new passion and rededicated myself. And not just me, anybody can do that. And that's why I got into education, is to help people and to work with kids and families in my community to try to teach people what I've learned. And that is that it really doesn't matter how one of your dreams ends. It doesn't mean that there's not room for another one to begin.
It's like that phrase from Hotel Transylvania 3, a new chapter.
Just a new chapter. We all have plenty of chapters in our lives. Close one and open another one, right?
Yes, sir. Now, you were, from what I've heard, nervous about Muhammad Hassan. What were you nervous about exactly?
As far as the character goes, WWE was different at the time. So I wasn't the only ethnic character, and I wasn't the only one that was around at the time or that had been around in recent history. A lot of my nerves were just having such a big spot so quick. I went from wrestling in OVW in front of a couple hundred people on their local TV show to now being one of the main events at WWE. So there's a lot of nerves involved with that. And being so young, I was only 24 years old when I started. I was a little nervous to take it on, and I think my family was as well, because it was not a good time for Arab Americans or Middle Easterners in this country at all. I mean, there was a lot of unfair and unjust things that were happening to them just because of the way they looked or what their last name was. Be able to step into the public eye and take on that role. I mean, I stepped up and I didn't refuse. You never refuse a character like that. It came with a lot of baggage as well.
That time was so aggravating because this might come across as controversial. People need to see not every Arab American caused 9/11.
Not any Arab American caused 9/11. It had nothing to do with Arab Americans. That was a terror cell in another country that had hijacked those planes. I mean, yes, they had worked in our country as well, but they were people from another country. They weren't born here. And I think that this country, unfortunately, has a long history of generalizing and stereotyping people and being unfair and discriminate towards them. And I talked a little bit about Dark Side, about how I heard stories about my grandfather who came to this country in the 1940s from Sicily. And my father taught us that he faced prejudice as well, and he had to overcome, and he didn't speak English. And that was a big reason why my father became an attorney, is to protect people who can't protect themselves. It was great to be able to use Muhammad Hassan to bring that to light before the character became way too controversial.
How do you do that now, though, as an educator?
As a history teacher, that was actually one of my favorite things to do, is to look for alternative histories and histories from not just the textbook, but different sources. Because to teach history effectively, in my opinion, it's not just about the facts and the dates. It's to teach students to think critically and to scrutinize primary sources and what they see in front of them, to try to read between the lines and compare it to other sources in order to find out what the truth may be. It's like any conflict. You have one person's side, then you have the other person's side, and somewhere in the middle is the actual truth. But perspective is a funny thing, because there's no truth in perspective. Perspective becomes reality. And in that sense, the writers of the textbooks now control the narrative of what the history actually was, when in most cases, it's not entirely accurate. I really went out of my way to provide my students with a wide variety of sources to learn about the same subject in history and understand that World War II is very different when you look at it from the United States perspective versus the Japanese perspective versus the French perspective versus the German perspective. And that's more important today, Sam, than ever, because I'm sure you know that social media is filled with lies. I mean, it's filled with fake news and stories that people just make up. And I have 4 children, and it makes me very nervous because they're all old enough to be on social media. And I tell them all the time, do not believe anything you read. If you think something's true, Google it, check it out, and look for more sources to verify that it's true.
Especially with Wikipedia out. Wikipedia, people change it all the time. And I think you people still fall for that.
Wikipedia says that I was born in 1981 and that my middle name is Julian. I was born in 1980 and my middle name is Joseph. I would change it, but I don't know how to change it myself. Anybody can make something up these days.
You want to talk more about your character? What do you think makes your character stand out compared to other foreign characters like the Iron Sheik? I know you talked about the vignettes you thought about made it stand out, but is there something else?
Sure. I think what really made my character stand out was that my character wasn't a foreign character. My character was an American character of Arab descent. And I think that that is what really made the character unique and genuine, is that I wasn't born in Iran like the Iron Sheik. I wasn't born in Russia like Nikolai Volkov. I was born right here in the United States. Grew up here. I went to school here. My family raised me here. My family owns businesses here. And what I used to say is, since 9/11, people started treating Arabs even worse than they may have been treated before, because they thought all of them were terrorists and all of them were responsible for 9/11. I was angry because I was from this country. I was angry because I'm American just like you, and I don't deserve to be treated any differently, even though that's what you're doing. Muhammad Hassan really spoke to the people who were living in America at the time that were facing that prejudice. And at first, that character spoke for people who didn't have a voice. And I was really happy to do that and really proud to do that for the Arab people in this country who enjoyed wrestling, because we have wrestling fans from all different walks of life.
Let me ask you then, because I've heard a lot of in the media, the times where it did turn radical. What was the first sign where you thought, this character's maybe going a little too far?
I think the first major sign for me, and I think what really tipped it, was the way that I started treating Sean Davari, not as much as my manager, but almost as like my servant. And I think that once we introduced the 6 characters that came out with me prior to the angle with the Undertaker, once I was in the back talking about Sean being a sacrifice, that's when it went too far. Now, it happened slowly. That was a turning point moment where the character was no longer relying on his American heritage as much as his Islamic heritage, and it became a more radicalized character. And eventually, I think we ended up becoming all of the stereotypes that we set out to fight against. At that moment, I think I started questioning it.
But speaking of Davari and friends, minus Davari, because I know you stay before you're still friends with him, who are some of the friends you made while you were in wrestling?
I still stay in touch with Davari. I did an appearance with Gene Snitsky last week, and Gene and I are meeting up Friday to do another appearance at Ohio, like I was talking about. Chris Masters, a lot of people from OVW, Johnny Jeter, Chris Pavone, Mike Bucci, who was Nova, or Simon Dean. Don't talk to him as often as I would like. We were really tight, Matt Morgan. And in the WWE, you're a little more isolated because you're traveling in groups of 3 or 4, show to show. A lot of guys that I just wish I had more time or the opportunity to talk to, I don't. So it's really cool to kind of bump into them when I do an appearance. Like when I was at WrestleCon in Philly, that was huge. I'm going to be at WrestleCade in North Carolina Thanksgiving weekend, and that's going to be really cool because there's a ton of guys on that card. So, I saw Mick Foley not too long ago. I saw Bradshaw not too long ago. You're friendly with all these people, but you live your own lives. So you really don't have the opportunity to see them or talk to them as often as you'd like. It's a lot of fun. That's why I like doing these appearances so much, seeing the fans and talking to the fans and seeing my friends.
Well, I know Mick Foley too darn well. I'll tell you that from experience. Yeah. I got to have him on this show right here. He's a nice guy. One of the most humble men you'll ever meet.
It was really cool seeing Mick, and that was my first promo ever in the WWE, was going toe-to-toe with the great Mick Foley. So it was really cool to bump into him a couple months ago. We were in Springfield, Massachusetts, I believe.
Did Mick Foley ever help you out before you were going to go on air your first time? Did he give you any clues, hints?
We talked. Mick Foley is such a master at cutting a promo that he doesn't script them. So we had a general idea about what we were going to do once we got out there. But Mick helps you in the ring because he's so passionate and he's so dramatic and so engaging. And the people are so with him that almost anything that comes out of your mouth, they're going to boo because they want to cheer Mick so bad. Because that was my first on-air promo.
It was a good one, too, because there was some truth to it. When you hit the airports, I thought, this character's going to be great.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, there's a lot of truth in all of it.
There really is. And you did experience some real life heat and heat in the media. What advice would you give to someone right now who does experience heat and it's not their fault?
Depending on the context, I will say if it's wrestling, you need to enjoy that heat because that's what's making you money. But in life, I very rarely believe that things happen to people without them having some accountability for it. And so that's one thing that I always tell my kids and my students is just make sure you're accountable for your actions. If you don't see any need to change your behavior, then you never will. And the same things will keep happening. You have to be very honest and reflect on what you've done and your place in any situation in order to improve and to not be there again. That was something I was really big on with my kids, my students, and with my kids now as a father, same.
We have to be accountable and people have to see we're human. Humans are bound for mistakes.
I make a lot of mistakes, and believe me, I got no problem admitting when I make a mistake because you look silly sometimes when you try to pretend like you didn't do anything wrong. Admit it, move on, and learn from it. That have been my motto.
I want to tell you about something else you said in Dark Side of the Ring. You were at the time span where you had no direct, you're in survival mode, you were depressed, and you asked, what if I don't wake up? What advice do you have for someone who is kind of considering that? Maybe they're in survival mode or they're depressed, or they ask themselves, nothing I'm doing is making a difference.
The element of honest reflection and what your part is. And I had to be very hard on myself and realize all the mistakes that I've made and all the things that I've done wrong in order to change those things. You can't make change unless you're ready to admit that there's mistakes that have been made that need to be changed. My advice is once you're able to do that, you have to be willing to put the work in and sacrifice every single day. It has to be an automatic commitment, and that doesn't happen overnight. A habit, we are what we do. Therefore, being good at something, it's not an act, it's a habit. And you have to find a way to build habits every single day and put the work in every single day and make that commitment and decision every single day, no matter what it is. And it wasn't easy when I went back to school to be a teacher. I had no money left. I was working nights at UPS, and I made a decision every morning to get up, go to school, come home, go to the gym, eat, and then go to work for 6 hours and do the whole thing every day. And it wasn't like I made that decision, I'm going to do this for the next 2 years. I had to make that decision every single day. I think sometimes the hardest thing about making change is to start and don't stop. Make that commitment and make that decision to do it every single day. Don't worry about what's going to happen in 2 years. If you make that commitment every single day, you're going to do it because 2 years is going to be 2 years. You can't make time go by any quicker or any slower. The only thing you can control about time is what you do within that. If you commit yourself every single day, but at the end of 2 years, you're going to be looking back on success as opposed to wishing you had done something differently.
That's all you can do is look ahead and don't stop believing. I know it's overused with Journey song, but trust me, follow that, it works. Now, folks, we wrap back with me. Our friends are Harley Davidson of Bloomington, Indiana. So let's get to it.
It's official. Harley Davidson of Bloomington is a sponsor to Autism Rocks and Rolls. Located on Gordy Pike in Bloomington, they take pride in providing the best selection of both new and used motorcycles. This Harley Davidson cherishes the chance to build a lasting relationship with its clients. This is done by going above and beyond your expectations. An example is They give you the chance to take your dream motorcycle for a test run. Like every Harley-Davidson dealer, there are not only motorcycles, but they also have legendary Harley-Davidson t-shirts and helmets. If you are a motorcyclist, stop at one of their events, such as Bike Night or the Poker Run we are hosting. Be sure to drop in for a cup of coffee or give them a call at 812-333-8300. That's 812-333-8300. As they say, it's a lifestyle and it's a family.
All right, folks, we're back, and you might see Harley Davidson there. You never know. You gotta get more into your education and love of history. What exactly do you find fascinating about history?
I think what's fascinating about history is that the multiple perspectives of one single event really kind of tell the whole story. I'm also really into the idea that everything evolved from something else. To really understand the way humans behave in 2025, you really have to start going back through time to see the changes that were made and the cultural diffusion and sharing of ideas. I taught global history. So I taught world history. I love United States history, but global history was my passion. And J.K. Rowling said it in Harry Potter, the most powerful form of magic is the written word, because people can speak to you from thousands of years ago and tell their story. Stories about humans, and it's relatable and a people person, and to see how everything came together and to see these journeys and these brave people and the heroes and the villains. And it's like a good movie. I also love prehistory. I'm a huge fan of history before we have written records, because a lot of it is inference and a lot of it is making judgments based on the artifacts that you find and analyzing. And there's a lot of interpretation involved. No, but history was what I was passionate about. And when I tried to reorganize my life and think about what I was going to do, it was when I started teaching that I realized that I feel like I had a bigger calling. And I did it all at once. I got my teaching certification, got a job. 3 years later, I had my master's. 4 years later, I had my certificate of advanced study in educational leadership, and I was an assistant principal. And kept going from there, because as much as I love history, I love being able to spread positivity and have a bigger reach over what's happening in my students' lives and my district's lives and my family's lives. And I feel like that's been something I've had a bit of a knack for. And I care about people, and you have to care about people to do a good job in what I do.
Oh, yeah. I can testify that. Like we were talking about earlier before we were recording, my mother is a teacher. And some of the stories I hear, I'm like, how do you deal with it, even though they just spat on you? Because I'm at the point I hit a limit. If you spit on me, we're done.
No, kids are very tough these days. You have to understand and be patient with kids. And you also have to find an intrinsic reward in knowing that you're going to have a lot of rough days. But man, there are just moments where you realize it's all worth it. And I'm sure your mother will tell you the same thing. For every kid that's spit on towards her, I'm sure there's 10 kids that'll say she's their favorite teacher and give her notes and tell her how much they appreciate it. It doesn't happen often enough for teachers, just like parents. But when it does, it makes it all worth it. And I think teachers are highly motivated individuals who really have that need and that calling to better people's lives. I'll tell you what, they don't do it for the money. And you could say they have summers off, but a lot of them really don't. It's a difficult job, and it's a thankless job often. And a lot of times I find in society today, we tend to blame teachers for all of our problems. It'd be like blaming firemen for fires and police officers for crime. But when kids aren't learning or when something goes wrong in a school, we blame teachers. And it's unfair, because teachers only have so much control over what's happening. A lot of times it's what's happening outside of school that affects what a student's doing inside of school. God bless teachers, because without teachers, I don't think anybody here would have a future or would have had any sort of success. I can think of all my great teachers I've had along the way, and not just at school, but in wrestling as well. And what they taught me wasn't just what they were trying to teach me. It was how they treated me that taught me the most.
Let me ask you this, though. I'm sure, even though you're not a special education teacher, I'm sure you've had students over the time who had maybe a learning disability or who were on the autism spectrum but had a high understanding of the world. How did you adapt to their world?
Just that, you adapt to their world. Yeah, of course, as a principal and assistant principal, as a teacher, I've worked in all different kinds of classrooms and all different kinds of kids. And every kid is special, and you have to find something to love about every kid, even some of the more challenging ones. But any of the autistic students or some of the students with different learning disabilities, what I love about them is they have their thing. And if you're able to adapt to them and really understand what they love and why they love it, then it kind of opens up a whole world of relationship. And one of my favorite places to go was our 1214 room, which is with some of our more challenging students who had trouble learning. But to watch them learn and watch how excited they were and watch their teachers really shine and really kind of glow when their students had major breakthroughs, it's so rewarding. And every kid deserves that chance. I mean, every kid's unique. I say to my kids all the time, it's weird to not be weird. Everybody's weird in their own way. It'd be weird if we weren't. And so you have to learn to appreciate and love everybody for who they are and not what they are. What somebody is just that. It's a what. but who they are is what's important. Good people come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and forms. And if someone's good to you, then you be good to them. I think that's the message that we try to give to our kids and our students. And we hope that everybody else does the same, because we've got enough bad things happening in this world. We don't need any more.
I want to talk to you more about being an HR employee, because I've been in an HR world kind of with college, but it was just giving a paper to someone. What does an HR employee for a school district county entail? What's some daily tasks you have to do?
I'm the director of human resources. So in my school district, we have the superintendent who oversees everybody. We have 2 executive directors of curriculum instruction and assessment. One oversees more STEM or STEAM based, like math and science, the other more English and social studies. We have a business administrator who oversees the finance of the district. Then you have me, and I oversee all of the personnel of the district. Daily tasks is conflict resolution, interpreting contracts. I oversee our benefits like health insurance, dental, and vision. I hire substitutes. I hire administrators. I'm involved in the hiring process. I post for jobs. I go through and review resumes and applications. Any issue, unfortunately, with a teacher who might do something that's wrong, it comes to me. Anything involving the police comes to me. Anything involving any attorneys come to me. So I'm basically the legal representative of the district. And it's a lot of responsibility. And it's a big job. And I don't stop working. I work 7 days a week. I'm always accessible, and I have to be, because I'm the only person in my district who can do my job. But on vacation, I'm still working, but at least I'm doing it on the beach, so it's not too bad.
In retrospect, you're a lawyer of a school.
Basically, without the law degree. My brother's an attorney, and so is my father. So I think we just kind of think that way. So it's kind of a natural fit for me.
Well, to be fair, it's better you doing it than Muhammad.
Yeah, Muhammad Hassan would not have lasted long in HR, that's for sure.
Yeah, no. But we'll wrap her up here, and these are just for some fun questions. So, Mr. Copani, what is your paradise meal or favorite food, and why is it your favorite?
Oh, peanut butter and fluff sandwiches, probably. That's been my favorite since I was a kid, and I love peanut butter. Peanut butter and Nutella, peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter pie, probably anything peanut butter. I don't eat a lot of peanut butter because I'm trying to be really strict with my diet, but every once in a while I will splurge and I'll have a peanut butter and something sandwich, and it just makes my day. Peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Well, I can't relate, unfortunately. I'm allergic to peanuts.
No, are you? All right. What's your paradise food?
It's buffalo wings, chicken, carnivore meat. I am a big meat guy, so a lot of meatballs, steak. I would prefer it medium rare, but rare is okay. It just can't be, blood gutting out still. There needs to be some pink in the steak.
I got you. I'm a medium rare kind of guy myself, and meatballs as well. Absolutely.
So what has been your favorite vacation, and why did you enjoy that vacation very much?
Oh, we go to the Outer Banks. We started a tradition in my family, blended family. So I have 3 stepdaughters. Lily's going to be 17. Mila and Lana are 13. And my son, Sam, is 11. And their mom is Jamie. And
cool name, bud. Anyway, continue.
I know. I'll never forget your name. But I think my favorite vacation was 2019. We all went to the Outer Banks with my wife's parents, my parents, friends, family. Well, no. 2019, we got engaged. 2020, we went down there and we got married. And I think that was my favorite vacation, just nice and low key, spending time with my family on the beach, beautiful weather, beautiful private beach.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. I've never been to North Carolina.
Beautiful.
So my final question to you is, are there any good memories I want to tell our listeners about? If you do, why do you remember that memory the most? So before you answer, I want you to end with something sentimental, made you feel good inside, and a funny memory that made you fall on the floor laughing. It could be with Muhammad Hassan, could be with your teaching, could be with today, your children. You'll call you and answer it, bro.
It's tough as far as memory goes to not think of the morning my son was born as being a favorite memory, even though he was just a big blue gray baby that they plopped on his mother's stomach, and just knowing the journey that was ahead. I think that would be one of my favorite memories. Funny memories. Oh God. I spent the weekend with Gene Snitsky, and we were just kind of reliving some stories from OVW and from the road in WWE. And we were just cracking up, dying. One of them we talked about was I hated to get chopped and I hated to be smacked. I still do. Anywhere like in your body. We were laughing at this one time. Gene and I were in the ring in OVW and we're just running drills. And Gene was brand new, and Gene's a giant. He's like 6'7", 300 pounds of solid muscle. He went to roll me over in the ring, put his hand on my arm and my waist and moved me this way to pin me. And he just slapped the crap out of me. And I remember just screaming at him. We were just dying laughing because he remembered too. I mean, I have a lot of favorite funny memories, but in recent history, I guess you had to be there, but that made us crack up just because it was just one of those stupid things that like no one else probably would have cared. But Gene's like, oh, no, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's not you. It was me. I'd rather get punched in the face than chopped.
Yeah, but what if it was the Undertaker chopping you? That might be a different story. You might be like, fine.
Well, I'll take him, but Undertaker doesn't throw a lot of chops. Big Show chopped me with that big overhand chop. Benoit chopped me. Like, I take chops. I mean, I just didn't enjoy them. It's just that smack. It drove me crazy.
It's the after sting. It's like, is that really necessary?
Right, exactly.
Mr. Copani, thank you for your time. Is there any closing remarks you'd like to say before we head out of here?
No, I had a lot of fun, Sam. I'll say if anybody's watching and they're interested, trying to be more active on social media, my kids are helping me out a lot. My Instagram at Marc Copani.
Thank you again, Mr. Copani. You have a great day. Thanks for joining for this episode. Please wait for another episode coming in very soon. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble. Thank you very much.